the hunger inside. I never wanted grandfather's inheritance. The old man was half mad when he died, scratching at his arms, gnawing on his lips until they bled. "Don't let it take you," he muttered with his last breath. I thought he meant the loneliness of this decrepit house, the weight of the family name. I was wrong. Acting on my dreams. Then, I started craving raw meat. It wasn't hunger, it was need. The sizzle of a steak disgusted. It was just small things. My skin itched, my teeth ached. I woke up feeling drained, like something was fused in me. I wanted it bleeding, still warm. And the mirror, God, the mirror. It watching me. I don't mean I saw my reflection, I mean it was watching me. Smiling when I wasn't. Shifting started when I stood still. Its eyes too dark, too deep. Something ancient lurking inside them. One night, I woke up standing in front of him. My mouth was wet with something thick and salty. My hands trembled as I raised them to my lips. Blood. I hadn't eaten dinner. I stumbled back, but my reflection stayed where it was, staring. Grinning. Its lips curled back, showing teeth that weren't mine, jagged, long, hungry. Then it spoke. "You're almost ready." My chest tightened. The hunger inside me roared. My skin split open in places, something writhing beneath. I clawed at myself, trying to stop whatever was coming, but it was too late. I wasn't inheriting the house. I wasn't inheriting grandfather's money. I was inheriting him. And now someone else will, too. This happened about a year and a half ago. Summer 2023 had been a dream, one of those golden stretches of time where everything just seems to fall into place. I had finally found success with my online business, enough to buy myself the freedom to travel, to wander through Europe with no set plan, no real obligations. I had money in my pocket, a passport full of fresh stamps, and the kind of lightness in my chest that comes from knowing you don't owe anyone a damn thing. I started the year in Malta. Sunshine, ocean breeze, slow days that stretched into long, wine-drenched nights. Then Budapest, where I met up with some old friends and let the city swallow me whole. By early summer, I found myself in Varna, Bulgaria, visiting my friend Ben, who was studying medicine there. The city was strange, old Soviet buildings slumping under the weight of time, their windows like tired eyes staring out over the lively beach town below. Expats, university students, tourists, it was a clash of worlds, but somehow it worked. The days were warm, the nights were wild, and nothing bad ever seemed real in the glow of neon signs and cheap beer. That night, like most nights, we were drinking by the beach. The crowd was good, the music even better, but at some point, exhaustion crept in. I checked my watch, just past 4 a.m. The others were still going strong, but I'd had my fill. I decided to walk home, slipping away into the quiet, salt-tinged darkness of early morning. The apartment was only a 15-minute walk away. I'd done it plenty of times before. People warned me about muggings, attacks, but I'd never seen anything. The streets weren't exactly deserted. This was a city that never fully went to sleep. I kept my headphones in but low enough to hear my surroundings. I always did. Maybe that's what saved me. I cut through a small park, nothing special, just a shortcut lined with benches and overgrown bushes. The kind of place where old men smoked during the day and drunks stumbled through at night. It wasn't one of the main beach parks, just a quieter, darker corner of the city. And that's where I saw him. A man, sitting alone on a bench up ahead, staring down at his phone. Nothing strange about that. But then movement. Behind him. At first I thought it was just someone else walking through the park, but no. The way they moved, slow, deliberate, set my teeth on edge. They weren't just walking. They were stalking. And both hands were raised above their head, gripping something heavy. A rock. It happened fast. Too fast. The person lunged from the bushes, sprinting toward the man on the bench. The rock arced downward, aimed straight for his skull. And maybe it was my footsteps, maybe it was some sixth sense, but at the very last second, the man on the bench looked up. He saw his attacker. And he ran. No hesitation, no questions, Just a raw, terrified scream and the sound of his feet pounding away into the night. The attacker froze. And then, slowly, his head turned toward me. There was a moment, just a heartbeat, where we stared at each other. He still held the rock, fingers curled around it like something sacred. And then he grinned. And then he ran. At me. I don't remember thinking, only moving. My body took over where my mind failed. I turned and ran, blindly, wildly, my heart hammering against my ribs. His footsteps pounded behind me, too close, too fast. I took sharp turns, cut through alleys, zigzagged through the streets, but he was still there. No matter where I went, he followed, like a shadow, like something that had crawled out of the dark just for me. And then, by some stroke of luck, I saw it, a small kebab shop, its lights still on. Without thinking, I barreled inside, slamming the door behind me. The workers behind the counter looked up, startled, as I gasped for air, trying to explain. But before I could get the words out, he was there. Standing outside. Staring at me through the glass. That grin was still on his face, stretched too wide, something unhinged in the way he held himself. He didn't try to open the door. He didn't need to. Instead, he lifted the rock and brought it down against the glass. The sound was sharp, a gunshot cracked through the tiny space. Everything went silent. Then he hit it again, and again, and again. On the fourth strike, the glass spiderwebbed. On the fifth, it shattered. And then, just like that, he turned and walked away. I stood there for a long time, my breath still coming in ragged gasps, my hands trembling at my sides. Eventually, I made my way home, taking the longest possible route, avoiding the park, avoiding the dark, avoiding everything. I locked the doors. I locked the windows. And I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening for footsteps that never came. The next morning, my jaw ached. At first, I thought I had just clenched it too hard while running, but then I realized I had fractured a tooth. I must have been grinding my teeth in my sleep. That's when it truly sank in. Just how close I had been to something truly awful. Later, I found out something else. Just a year earlier, in that same park, someone had been murdered. Bludgeoned. Stabbed. I have no doubt that if I hadn't walked into that park at that exact moment, the man on the bench would have never seen his attacker in time. And I wonder sometimes if there was someone else, someone who had taken that walk before me, who had crossed paths with that same grinning man in the dark and never made it to a kebab shop in time.